Sunday night. The new weekly planner open on your phone. Every hour blocked, color coded, 6 a.m. wake up, deep work 9 to 11, gym at noon, study block 2 to 5, meal prep, reading, bed by 10:30. You felt good building it, organized, finally in control. By Tuesday afternoon, it was already rubble. The 9 a.m. block slipped because you slept through the alarm. The gym didn't happen because the study ran over, or the study didn't happen because you were recovering from missing the gym. One block fell and the rest followed. The whole week collapsing like a structure that looked solid and wasn't, because it was built on the assumption that nothing would go wrong. You've rebuilt the schedule more times than you can count. Different app, different color, same result. And somewhere in the back of your head, there's a voice that has started asking whether the problem isn't the schedule, whether the problem is you. That voice is wrong. But the thing it's pointing at is real. And the real problem is something Tony Stark understood in a cave in Afghanistan with no resources, no team, and no plan that had survived first contact with the situation in front of him. Here is what he built instead, and why your color-coded weekly planner is the reason you keep failing, not the solution to it. A schedule built for perfect conditions is not a schedule. It is a wish list with timestamps. The version of your week that exists inside the planner assumes that Tuesday will behave like Monday's best intentions. It assumes you will sleep when you planned to sleep, wake when you planned to wake, have the energy you expected to have, and that the world will not place anything unplanned in the gaps between your color-coded blocks. It assumes, in other words, that you are operating in a controlled environment. You are not operating in a controlled environment. You are a person living a real life inside a week that does not consult your planner before deciding what to throw at you. Stark didn't build the Mark I inside a schedule. He had no schedule. He had a deadline, get out before they kill you, and a pile of scrap, and a mind that had stopped waiting for ideal conditions and started working with actual ones. The suit he built in that cave was not the suit he would have designed at a desk in Malibu. It was heavier, cruder, less elegant. It worked. And it worked, specifically because it was built to function in the environment that actually existed, not the environment he would have preferred. Your schedule keeps collapsing because you keep designing it for Malibu. You keep building the elegant version, the one that functions beautifully when everything goes right. And every week, the cave shows up instead. The question Stark's arcs forces onto the table, and the one your planner has been avoiding, is this. What does a schedule look like that is built for the cave? And what has your obsession with the elegant version been costing you every time Tuesday arrives? A schedule that works in real life has one property above every other. It survives disruption, not by being rigid enough to resist disruption, by being built with so much slack that disruption lands inside the structure instead of destroying it. This is the part that most people resist, because it looks like underplanning. It looks like lowering your standards for the week. It is the opposite of both. Here is what it actually means. Instead of blocking every hour, you identify the single most important thing that needs to happen today. One thing, not 5, and you protect that one thing against everything. The rest of the day exists to serve it, and to absorb whatever the week throws at you. Meetings run long. That's what the slack was for. You slept badly. That's what the slack was for. Something unexpected arrived. That's what the slack was for. The one thing still happened. That is a successful day. Most people build schedules that require 10 things to go right for the day to count. Then one thing goes wrong, and the whole day is a write-off. The day isn't a write-off. The accounting system is broken. Stark's most effective work happened under constraint, not despite the constraint, because of it. The cave forced him to identify what actually mattered, and build only that. Back in Malibu, with unlimited resources and unlimited time, he built 50 versions of things that were already working. Constraint is not the enemy of productivity. It is the mechanism that forces you to be honest about what actually needs to happen today versus what you've been putting in the schedule to feel like a person who has their life together. One thing, protected, non-negotiable. Everything else is a bonus. That is not a low standard. That is the only standard that survives contact with a real week. A man who hits one protected priority every day for 90 days looks, from the outside, like someone with extraordinary discipline. He isn't. He just stopped measuring days by how many blocks he completed and started measuring them by whether the one thing happened. The compound effect of this is invisible for the first few weeks. One thing a day does not feel like momentum. It feels like underachieving. The color-coded planner felt more productive, more evidence of effort, more boxes to tick, more visible proof that you were taking your life seriously. But the planner had a completion rate of roughly 40% on a good week. One protected priority has a completion rate that approaches 100 because it was built to survive the week you actually have, not the week you wished for. And at 90 days, the man with 40% completion on an ambitious schedule and the man with 95% completion on a constrained one are not in the same position. They are not even in the same conversation. Stark didn't become the most capable person in the room by having the most sophisticated setup. He became the most capable person in the room by being the one who could still function when the setup was gone. The suit kept evolving, not because the previous version had failed, but because each constraint revealed exactly what the next version needed to be. That is not planning. That is a feedback loop, and a feedback loop built on honest daily completion is worth more than 5 years of ambitious schedules abandoned by Wednesday. What you've assumed throughout this entire video is that the fix is a better schedule, a smarter system, a more refined version of the thing you already have. It isn't. And what it actually is will cost you the planning habit you've been hiding behind. You came into this thinking your schedule needed to be more disciplined, tighter, better designed, more detailed blocks, stronger commitment, more willpower applied to the same structure. Your schedule is already too detailed. That is the problem. Every additional block you add is another point of failure. Every optimized hour is another assumption that the day will cooperate. You have been building a machine that requires perfect conditions to run and then blaming yourself when the conditions aren't perfect. The schedule isn't the discipline. The schedule is where the discipline goes to hide. Real discipline is not a plan that survives Sunday night. It is the decision made at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when everything has already gone sideways to find the one thing and do it anyway. That decision does not live in any planner. It lives in you, and no schedule you design will build it for you. Tonight, close the planner, not permanently just tonight. Take a blank page and write down one answer to this question. What is the single thing that, if it happened tomorrow, would make tomorrow a successful day? Not 5 things. Not a list. One thing. The thing that actually moves something that matters. Write it at the top of tomorrow, before the alarm time, before the blocks, before the color coding. One thing. Then build the rest of tomorrow loosely around protecting that one thing from being crowded out by everything else that wants the same hours. When Tuesday arrives and the structure starts to bend, and it will, the question is not whether the schedule survived. The question is whether the one thing happened. If it did, Tuesday was a success. Full stop. The rest is a bonus. Stark built the Mark I in a cave and flew out of captivity in a suit made of scrap. He didn't wait for the workshop. He didn't wait for the right conditions. He identified the one thing get out and built exactly enough to do that one thing in the environment that actually existed. The schedule isn't broken because you lack discipline. It's broken because you built it for a version of your week that has never existed and will never exist. Build for the week you actually live in. One thing, tomorrow, written down tonight. Not a plan, a commitment. There is a significant difference between those two words, and the gap between them is where every color-coded weekly planner goes to die.